Chinese President Xi Jinping's third overseas visit this year. And this time, he's heading to Central Asia. From Monday to Wednesday, Chinese President Xi Jinping will attend the second China-Central Asia Summit in Astana, Kazakhstan, at the invitation of the country's President Kassym-Jomart Tokayev. In the land of the Great Steppe, President Xi and his counterparts of 5 Central Asian countries, namely Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan, are expected to further cement China-Central Asia cooperation. Exchanges between China and Central Asia dates back at least 2,000 years to the days of the ancient Silk Road. And now, with the Belt and Road Initiative, political trust has been greatly enhanced and trade volume has skyrocketed. What does the summit mean for China-Central Asian ties? Following the first summit held in Xi'an, northwest China, what can we expect this time? And what do stable China-Central Asia relations mean for the world? Welcome to The Point, an opinion show coming to you from Beijing live. I'm Lu Xin. I'm pleased to be joined from Astana by Guna Shaimer-Genova, founder and CEO of Kazakhstan's China Studies Center. From Shanghai by Zhang Xiaotong, director of the China and Central Asia Studies Center at Kimep University, and here in the studio by Aina Tangen, senior fellow with Taihe Institute, a think tank based in Beijing. Welcome to the show. Let's understand the situation first. I want to go to Aina. For the average viewer watching this, wherever they may be, why does it matter? What do closer China-Central Asia ties mean for the world?
Well, this reflects a move towards regionalization. As people look around the world today and they see the wars, conflicts, possible spreading conflicts, division within the United States, they're looking for somebody and a country that can act like an adult, that can be predictable, that can be reliable. So at this point, Xi Jinping is going out and doing the hard work, going to his neighbors, assuring them that security, development, and respect matter. These are the 3 principles that China believes in, and it's one which they hope that the world will adopt as it enters this multipolar phase. China sells hope, other countries are selling conflict.
Well, this is not a one-way effort. I'm sure it is mutual, and we're going to talk about that. But again, from the Chinese perspective, Professor Zhang Xiaotong, this is President Xi's third overseas visit, as I mentioned. The first was to Southeast Asia, including Vietnam, Malaysia, and Cambodia, and then he went to Russia. So why does the trip to Central Asia matter to President Xi? Why does it matter to China?
I think that President Xi is conducting a round China tour, first in Southeast Asia, then Russia, then now in Central Asia. The main purpose is to cement the good relationship with our neighborhood. Central Asia is situated to the west of China, and they are the neighbors that we cannot put somewhere else. So we have had traditional friendship for thousands of years. So Ambassador Zhang Qian went to Central Asia, Tang Sen went to Central Asia. And today, both China and Central Asia are rediscovering each other. So President Xi Jinping's visit in Central Asia means a lot to China and also to Central Asia as a very important region.
Guna, you are from the region, so let's hear from the region's perspective. But first, I'm very interested in your personal story because you were there to witness the historic moment when President Xi proposed the Belt and Road Initiative back in 2013 in Astana to the world. How did you feel at that time? Do you still remember? And how has that moment shaped your life in any way?
Thank you. And during the visit of Xi to Kazakhstan in September 2013, President Xi Jinping announced in the Kazakh capital his initiative to build the Silk Road economic belt. And at that time, I worked at the Nazarbayev University and personally participated in the meeting with the President Xi Jinping. And during this meeting, he voiced the famous idea And most of all, I remember the depth and consistency of the report. And President Xi Jinping embraced all possible directions for China's development. First, when I heard about the Belt and Road Initiative, I thought it was a great idea and that it is very necessary for our countries today. And everyone knows that people of Kazakhstan and China developed the Silk Road together 2000 years ago and were very prosperous. And therefore, this is a unique format for international cooperation. And China very appropriately choose the place for the statement of its historical idea because I think that Kazakhstan that is the central hub of the new economic Silk Road.
Let's talk about the perspective from the Central Asian countries. China wants very much to develop, to get closer to Central Asia at the same time. And I want to stay with Guna. What are the considerations of the 5 Central Asian countries when it comes to enhancing ties with China? Because China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs spokesperson Ling Jian said that it was a unanimous decision. It was a unanimous decision to establish the China Central Asia mechanism among China and 5 Central Asian countries, which dovetails with the region's common desire to maintain stability and pursue high-quality development. Guna, why do the region see it necessary to cement its ties with China?
The President Xi Jinping's coming state visit to Kazakhstan is a moment of strategic and symbolic importance both for China's as bilateral relations with Kazakhstan and for its broader engagement with the Central Asian region. And his visit comes as he joins other leaders in Astana for the second Central Asia China summit. And this shows just how important Central Asia has become in China's foreign policy. And President Xi's visit to Kazakhstan is a sign of close ties, also deep trust between our two nations. And I think that the decision to hold the summit in Astana carries deep symbolic significance, as it was in Kazakhstan in 2013, as I mentioned before, and when he proposed jointly building the Silk Road economic belt. And then a cornerstone of what later became the Belt and Road Initiative. And President of Kazakhstan, Kassym-Jomart Tokayev, has repeatedly emphasized the strategic importance of relations with China. And in March 2025, during a meeting with head of the International Department of the CPC Central Committee, our president expressed confidence that the upcoming visit of Chinese President Xi Jinping to Astana would open new horizons for strategic cooperation. And I think that this is a very important visit to Central Asia.
I see. Well, the China Central Asia mechanism was actually a rather new idea, despite the 2,000-year and plus relationship between China and this neighboring region. Aina, let me go to you. Help us understand this idea of China Central Asia mechanism. It's a rather new term. This idea was proposed by China in 2020, and in July that year, 5 years ago, the first China Central Asia foreign ministers virtual meeting took place, and they established a kind of regular meeting mechanism, but at the foreign ministers level. Then in January 2020, the mechanism was proposed to be elevated to a heads of state level. At the same time, the China Central Asia Community of Shared Future was established, and the first summit of China Central Asia, as I mentioned, was held 2 years ago in Xi'an, marking the official creation of a mechanism for meetings of heads of state of China and Central Asia. Help us understand the process, exactly what the China Central Asia mechanism is all about.
Well, it's a step-by-step process to establish a larger trade and security things. It's not directly security, but that is addressed by SCO, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. So what you have is this build-up, slowly, step by step, where they're trying to put in mechanisms. The next move is a permanent secretariat that will allow these entities to coordinate and be in communication to carry forward projects. Now, this is exactly what China offers and why Central Asia is responding. 10 years ago, China made promises, and they've kept them. $1 trillion has been put into the Belt and Road Initiative. These are landlocked countries for the most part, so they need land ports, and China has been instrumental in developing those, and those are absolutely crucial to the future of Central Asia. Now, it plays directly for China's benefit as well because it opens up new markets. It's an area where Chinese industry, which is perhaps too expensive to do in China, can move to. And this is the whole point of the Belt and Road Initiative. It wasn't to establish all roads lead to China. It was establishing a mechanism that was two-way, that would be win-win for the countries who participated.
Let's get some more understanding about this concept from Professor Zhang Xiaotong. Help us understand, because this 5 Central Asians plus China mechanism is kind of new to us, but is it unique? Is it only happening between these Central Asian countries as a whole with China, or is it a kind of approach that these countries take in their relationship with external countries?
I think this Central Asia plus one mechanism is not just between China and Central Asia. It is also between Central Asia and other major economies like the European Union, and also some big countries like Russia, like the United States. So Central Asia plus one is a very original institutional innovation. And China is now playing a leading role in very much institutionalizing this C5 plus China mechanism, especially with China establishing a permanent secretariat, because this kind of C5 plus China secretariat is the very first institutionalized secretariat made by China together with Central Asia 5 countries, and other major economies and big countries have not yet established secretariat as China is doing now.
The secretariat, as you mentioned, was launched in Xi'an less than a year after the first China Central Asia summit, and all the 6 China Central Asia foreign ministers, at the 6th China Central Asia foreign ministers meeting held in late April of this year, all parties have welcomed the full-scale operation of the secretariat and supported Secretary General Sun Weidong's appointment, a Chinese. Gunnar, let me come to you again. How does such institutional development potentially benefit Central Asian countries such as Kazakhstan? How do you see it?
Well, I think the structure of Central Asian China cooperation mechanism is based on a well-designed multi-level architecture, and where the top level, heads of state and ministerial levels, complement one another, ensuring both strategic leadership and the effectiveness implementation of specific initiatives. And this approach has become the foundation of institutionalized cooperation, transforming it from declarative dialogue into a stable system of mutual development. Well, since the first summit in Xi'an in May 2023, significant progress has been achieved. For example, trade between China and Central Asia reached a record $94.8 billion in 2024, and more than half of the provisions in the Xi'an Declaration have already been implemented or are making substantial progress. And key milestones include the establishment of permanent secretariat, as you mentioned, and the launch of ministerial platforms across various sectors. So I think this is a very important mechanism which shows that Central Asian region plays a very pivotal role in China's foreign policy. And Central Asian region is the only region in the world which each country established very trustful cooperation with China.
Let's take a closer look at bilateral trade, which some of you have alluded to by now. We can see actually astonishing numbers. Bilateral trade more than doubled since 2013, since the Belt and Road Initiative was proposed. And the momentum seems to continue. Trade soared by over 10% year on year during the first 5 months of this year. Aina, what exactly is behind such exponential growth? Why is it going so strong? And it seems the world is unaware of how much is going on while a lot has been happening.
Well, the Chinese saying is that if you want to be wealthy, build a road. And that's exactly what has been helping this. It's the infrastructure that is allowing this trade to continue to grow. You have train services that are going back and forth carrying goods from China to Europe, but it's going through Central Asia, so it also picks up trade items from there. It brings in everything that people want and they can afford. So this is exactly what China was doing. This is why I said it's a two-way street. This is not just somehow benefiting China, as a lot of the pundits in the US try to say. This is just simply how you can grow trade, and China is showing it. Over 10 years, it is a steady, progressive, step-by-step process where you earn trust, you build infrastructure, and trade happens.
Professor Zhang, help us understand exactly what has been propelling the kind of exponential growth of trade through Central Asia, between China, through Central Asia to Western Asia, all the way to Europe. We know there's this China-Europe freight train. It doesn't have Central Asia written there, but it goes through Central Asia. What has enabled this train service to boom in the decade that has been launched right now? Every half an hour, there's a train departing from over 118 cities across China to reach over 300 cities in Asia, in Central Asia, Western Asia, and Europe.
Right. Central Asia serves as a very important gateway between China and the European Union, and also between China and also Russia. So we can see the freight train is growing very fast between China and Central Asia. I also want to come back to the point of the trade, because we need to remember that Central Asia country as a region is the youngest region in the world, and the 5 countries, the youngest country grouping, they only got independence in 1991. So they have a strong priority extended to development. So their trade plays a very important role linking China and Central Asia. Both China and Central Asia has a very important consensus on development. So that's why freight train trade, digital trade especially, are playing a very important role as accelerator for China-Central Asia relationship.
Mr. Zhang, you're talking about digital trade, you're talking about new products being traded. Help us understand a bit more. I was in Hogos in Western Xinjiang, for instance, where Chinese cars were being exported in droves through the border, across the border to enter Central Asia, together with huge blades from windmills. So according to your knowledge, what kind of trend has emerged in terms of trade, both imports and exports between China and Central Asia?
I think that the daily use products like a washing machine, television, or phones are largely purchased through digital trade. And nowadays, electric vehicles are a fashionable product, very much liked by Central Asia peoples. And electronic vehicles, in the eyes of Central Asian people, are something fashionable and affordable, especially from China. So Chinese electric vehicles are very much liked by countries in Central Asia. I see more and more BYD on the streets of Uzbekistan, and more in other countries in Central Asia. But not just BYD, but also other Chinese car brands have their strong presence in Central Asia.
Well, it's not a one-way street, as I said, and when I look at the numbers, it's not China selling more to these countries. China is also buying exponentially from these countries. Professor Zhang, can you tell us a bit more on those fronts?
I think Central Asian countries, especially Kazakhstan, are very, and also Turkmenistan, are very important exporting countries of oil and gas for China. And also China is a big consumer of minerals from Central Asian countries. And I think now China is making efforts together with countries like Uzbekistan to have more agricultural products, especially dried fruits, to be able to export to China to serve on the dinner tables of Chinese population. So there's a strong potential for a two-way trade between China and Central Asia countries. For the moment, China's trade relationship with Uzbekistan, for example, is that China has a huge surplus. So in the future, with the help of both sides, we could import more agricultural products from Uzbekistan to balance the bilateral trade.
Yeah, I know we talk a lot about trade, about development, but the security aspect is nowhere to be neglected, especially when we're looking at the world that we're looking at now, the conflict in Iran, between Iran and Israel, for instance. Strategically, or in terms of security, why is it important that China and Central Asian countries cooperate and collaborate so that this region is stable and safe and peaceful?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you can't have trade if you have war going on. But it's not just China, it's also Russia and the other countries surrounding it.
Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iran even?
Iran. Right now, the situation is Iran is not conducive to peace. The issue is, right now, you have the world's foremost power, which is actually backing the war that is going on against Iran, and also the genocide in Gaza. So at this point, people are looking elsewhere, and it's not looking just to one power. What they're saying is collectively, have to come together and figure out how we're going to settle these things before it comes out of hand. And it's a very, very serious matter as we're looking at Israel, which is a nuclear power, has estimated over 200 nuclear weapons. And are they, in fact, winding themselves up for a nuclear attack on these very deep bunkered areas where they are allegedly processing uranium?
Kina, from the terms of security and stability, you at your China Studies Center, has there been growing discussion, growing need by scholars from the region to know more about what's on the mind of China in terms of development, but also in terms of stability? Is there a greater discussion about how these countries can collaborate so that the region is more stabilized, is safer, is more secure?
Well, China and Central Asia plays a very important role in stability of our region. And first, these geopolitical changes, especially Russia's invasion on Ukraine, it was created new opportunities for China to strengthen its role in the region. And as we see that trade between China and Central Asia reached a record of $94.8 billion in 2024. And this also security concerns play a key role for China, as particularly related to its Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. And you also mentioned that cooperation on on countering these three evils like terrorism, extremism, and separatism has become a critical part of China's interaction with the region. And we see that also economic needs on both sides create a mutually beneficial dynamic. And China gains access to energy resources and transit corridors, while Central Asian countries gain access to Chinese investments, technology, and the world's largest consumer market. And also, all this cooperation, all these mechanisms will help to build a China Central Asia community with a shared future.
Let me go to Professor Zhang for your understanding. How does China see the weight of its relationship with Central Asia being part of the big puzzle of China's security and stability in the region?
China's understanding of security is very unique. China believes that security can be realized through trade, through development, through cooperation, which is very different from some other Western countries. Central Asia is a very important place where China can practice this ideal of security. So that's why China extends Belt and Road initiatives to Central Asia, and that's why China strengthens economic collaboration with Central Asia. And China firmly believes that if Central Asia has this stability through trade, through development, through cooperation with China, China would have a very stable region of our neighborhood.
Let me put this very difficult question to Professor Zhang. Once again, Aina, bear with me. Sorry, I don't give you the last question because U.S. media CNBC expressed dissatisfaction that the U.S. apparently is sidelining itself in Central Asia. It said that Washington aims to absorb the region into its sphere of influence as stated in the State Department strategy document titled U.S. Strategy for Central Asia 2019 to 2025, Advancing Sovereignty and Economic Prosperity. Mr. Zhang, what would China's proposal be for the region?
I think China's proposal for the region is that cooperation, development, and also respect of sovereignties of Central Asia. China's relationship with Central Asia does not target at any third party. It is strictly based upon the mutual interests between China and Central Asia. So that is why what China brings to Central Asia is development, trade, and collaboration instead of any geopolitical purpose, of any geopolitical motivation of driving away any third party out of Central Asia. Central Asia is always the gateway linking East, West, North, and South. Nobody can drive any third party out of Central Asia. And Central Asia is actually practicing what they call multi-vector diplomacy. So they have good relationship with everybody, including China, including Russia, including the United States. So Central Asia's stability and Central Asia's smart diplomacy plays a very important role for the regional stability in the whole Eurasia region.
Let's not patronize anybody. That is to say, we have to leave it there. Time has run out, but the discussion has been super interesting. Many thanks to my guests, Gina Shaimegenova, founder and CEO of Kazakhstan's China Study Center, Professor Zhang Xiaotong, Director of China and Central Asia Study Center at the Kazakhstan Institute of Management, Economics and Strategic Research University, or KIMEP, and Aina Tangen, Senior Fellow with the Taihe Institute based here in Beijing. With that, we come to the end of this edition of The Point with me, Liu Xin, an opinion show coming to you live from Beijing. As always, you can follow me on Facebook and X using the handle Liu Xin in Beijing. On behalf of the whole team, thank you for watching. You've got The Point.